There's a park in Tokyo, and honestly, in hundreds of cities and towns across Japan, where every single morning, before most of us have even thought about getting out of bed, you'll find groups of people gathering. Older people mostly. 70s, 80s, some of them well into their 90s, and they're moving, not running, not lifting weights, just moving, deliberately, together. There's actually a name for it. It's called radio taiso, radio calisthenics. It's been a thing in Japan since 1928, almost 100 years. And today, tens of millions of Japanese people still do it every single morning without fail, including people who are 85 years old and moving better than some Americans half their age. And when you look at Japan's health statistics, and I mean really look at them, something interesting starts to emerge. Japanese people don't just live longer, they live better, more independently, less pain, less disability in their later years. And while diet obviously plays a role, and genetics plays a role, researchers have started looking very seriously at this morning movement habit as a piece of the puzzle that doesn't get talked about enough. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to walk you through 7 specific movements that are either part of the radio taiso tradition or deeply rooted in how Japanese elders approach their bodies first thing in the morning. And I'm going to explain why each one matters, not just what to do, but what's actually happening inside your body when you do it, and what you're protecting yourself against when you make this a daily habit. Now I want to be upfront about something. This isn't about turning you into someone who wakes up at 5 a.m. and joins a park fitness group, though honestly, there are worse ideas. This is about understanding what your body actually needs in the first 15 to 20 minutes after you get up. Because here's what most people over 50 don't realize. The way you start moving in the morning sets the tone for how your body functions for the rest of the day, and once you understand why, you won't want to skip this again. Okay, so before we get into the movements themselves, I want to explain what's actually happening in your body while you sleep. Because once you understand this, the whole thing clicks. When you're lying still for 7 or 8 hours, a few things happen simultaneously. First, your joints. Your joints are lubricated by something called synovial fluid. Think of it like the oil in a car engine. It keeps the surfaces from grinding against each other, absorbs shock, keeps everything gliding smoothly. Now here's the thing about synovial fluid. It doesn't circulate on its own. It gets distributed through movement. When you move a joint, it pumps that fluid around the cartilage, nourishing it, lubricating it. When you're still for 8 hours, that fluid settles. It thickens a little. The joint surfaces are essentially dryish when you first wake up, which is exactly why that first step out of bed feels the way it does. And after 50, this gets noticeably worse. The body produces less synovial fluid as we age, and the fluid it does produce isn't quite as viscous or effective as it used to be, so you're starting from a lower baseline to begin with. Now here's the second thing happening overnight, and this one surprises people. Your fascia, that's the connective tissue that wraps around every single muscle, bone, and organ in your body like a full-body stocking. It stiffens when you're inactive. Fascia is designed to be hydrated and pliable. Movement keeps it that way. But after hours of stillness, it tightens up, almost like it's been left out to dry. That sensation of feeling stiff and compressed in the morning, that's largely fascia. And if you just jump out of bed and go straight into your day without addressing it, you're moving through those first few hours with tissue that isn't ready. The third thing, and this one really matters, is your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is responsible for clearing out waste products, managing inflammation, and supporting your immune function. But unlike your cardiovascular system, it has no pump. Your heart pumps blood. Nothing pumps lymph. It moves entirely through muscle contraction and body movement. So after 8 hours of sleep with minimal movement, lymph has been pooling. Waste products haven't been cleared. Inflammation that should have been swept away is just sitting there. And I'm not trying to make this feel overwhelming. I'm telling you this because it's actually good news in disguise. Because it means that what you do in those first 15 to 20 minutes after waking up has an outsized impact on how you feel, how you move, and how much pain or stiffness you carry through the rest of your day. All 3 of these systems respond, fast, to even gentle movement. That's the whole point. Japanese elders figured this out not through clinical research, but through centuries of intuitive practice. And now, the research is catching up and confirming W. And the first place to start is actually the one most people rush past without thinking. Movement number 1 is neck rotation. Slow, deliberate circles, ear toward the shoulder, chin toward the chest, ear to the other side. Not fast, not aggressive, just slow and intentional. Now I know what you're thinking. Neck rolls? Really? But stay with me, because this isn't about loosening a crick in your neck. This is about something much more important. Your cervical spine, the top 7 vertebrae in your neck, houses a dense network of proprioceptors. These are sensory receptors that communicate with your brain about where your body is in space. They're basically your internal GPS. And after 8 hours of lying still with your head in one position, those receptors are sluggish. They haven't been signaling. They're basically offline. Here's why that matters. A sluggish cervical proprioceptive system is one of the biggest contributors to fall risk in adults over 50. Not weakness, not bad knees, not even balance problems in the traditional sense. It's the neck-brain communication system not being warmed up. So when you do slow, deliberate neck rotations first thing in the morning, you're waking up that system. You're reestablishing the connection between your head position and your brain's sense of balance before you start moving through the world. Do 10 slow rotations in each direction. If you feel any sharp pain, stop. You're not trying to stretch to the limit. You're just warming up the circuit. Movement number 2 is shoulder rolls, big ones. Backward first. That's the important direction. Roll them up toward your ears, back, down, and around. 10 times backward, then 10 forward. Your shoulder girdle is attached to just about everything. It connects to your neck, your thoracic spine, your rib cage. When it's locked up, and after 50, morning shoulder stiffness is real, it creates a chain reaction of tension that travels down through your mid-back and up into your jaw. I've talked to so many people who have been dealing with chronic upper back pain for years, and when you actually look at their morning routine, they're going from bed to sitting at a desk with zero shoulder movement in between. No wonder things seize up. The backward roll specifically opens up the chest, counteracts the forward rounding posture most of us develop from years of sitting and screen time, and starts activating the posterior chain, the muscles running down the back of your body that are responsible for posture and stability. Think of it as flipping the I'm upright and functional switch. Now this brings me to movement 3, and this is one I see Japanese elders do almost universally, trunk rotation. Standing with feet shoulder width apart, arms loose, you rotate your torso side to side. Not from the hips, from the waist up, like you're looking over each shoulder, gently, with your whole upper body following. This one is doing more than you might expect. The rotation motion is directly pumping synovial fluid into your thoracic vertebrae, those 12 vertebrae in the mid-back that don't get nearly enough attention. It's also activating the obliques, which are the side core muscles that basically hold your spine together during almost every movement you make during the day. And it's starting the process of hydrating your lumbar fascia, that deep, thick connective tissue around your lower back that, when tight, is responsible for a huge percentage of the morning lower back pain people chalk up to just getting older. And look, this isn't just intuition. There's a large cohort study out of Japan, the JAGES study, which followed over 11,000 adults aged 65 and older for more than 5 years, that found people who practiced taiso regularly had a measurably lower risk of developing dementia compared to those who didn't. We're talking about an 18% reduction in dementia risk from a gentle morning movement practice. The researchers noted that the combination of coordinated movement and mind-body awareness in exercises like these may be part of what drives that protective effect on the brain. So with that foundation in place, let's keep moving, literally, because movements 4 and 5 are where things get really important for your lower body. And for a lot of people over 50, this is the area that determines a tremendous amount about what your life actually looks and feels like day to day. Movement 4 is hip circles, standing with your hands on your hips, Feet shoulder width apart, you draw big, slow circles with your pelvis. 10 in one direction, 10 in the other. That's it. Now your hips are the largest joint complex in your body. They carry your entire upper body weight with every single step you take. And the hip joint itself, the ball and socket, depends heavily on that synovial fluid we talked about earlier. But here's the thing that makes hips different from your smaller joints. The muscles surrounding the hip are enormous. You've got the glutes, the hip flexors, the adductors, the external rotators, layers and layers of muscle. And when those muscles are cold and tight in the morning, they don't just cause hip stiffness. They pull, they torque, they create compressive forces on your lower spine. A huge proportion of lower back pain, especially the kind that's worst in the morning and slowly improves as the day goes on, actually originates in tight hips, not the back itself. Hip circles done slowly and deliberately warm up every layer of that musculature simultaneously. They mobilize the hip capsule, they distribute synovial fluid through the full range of the joint, and they start waking up the glutes, which are the primary shock absorbers for your entire lower body. Without them engaged, your knees and lower back absorb forces they were never designed to handle alone. Movement 5 is ankle rotations and toe raises. Sit on the edge of a chair or stand near a wall for support. Rotate each ankle slowly, 10 circles each direction. Then do 20 slow toe raises, lifting your heels off the ground, coming up onto the balls of your feet, then lowering back down. I want to spend a moment on why this one is non-negotiable. Your ankles are literally your first point of contact with the ground every single time you take a step. The proprioceptors in your ankle, those sensors that tell your brain about ground surface, angle, stability, they are your primary fall prevention system. Not your eyes, not your core strength, your ankles. And here's something that a large 2024 review of fall prevention research confirmed. Ankle flexibility, ankle strength, and the sensitivity of the ankle's balance sensors all decline significantly with age. And when your ankle loses its ability to flex fully, that ability to lift the front of your foot toward your shin, your balance degrades with it. The review found that regular ankle mobility exercises measurably improve both balance and flexibility in older adults. That's not a small thing. That's a fundamental safety mechanism. And you're either maintaining it or you're letting it erode. Okay, I need to be direct with you here for a moment, because this is the part of the conversation I think matters most. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65. Not cardiovascular disease, not cancer, falls. 1 in 4 Americans over 65 falls every year. And when you look at what happens after a serious fall, a hip fracture, a head injury, the numbers are sobering. Up to 30% of older adults who suffer a hip fracture don't survive the following year. Not from the fracture itself necessarily, but from the cascade of complications that follow: immobility, infection, decline. And here's what makes me want to shake people by the shoulders sometimes. The majority of falls are not random accidents. They are the predictable result of declining ankle mobility, declining hip strength, declining proprioceptive sensitivity, things that erode slowly and quietly over years while people assume they're just getting older. Things that are genuinely, measurably addressable with consistent daily movement. I think about the people who come in after a fall, who had no idea their balance had deteriorated that much until the moment they were on the floor, who had been a little stiff in the mornings, a little less steady on their feet, chalking it up to age, and now they're looking at a surgery, a recovery, a long road back to independence, if they get there at all. That doesn't have to be your story. It genuinely doesn't. But it will be for a lot of people if the ankles and hips and the systems that protect balance are just left to quietly decline every morning while you skip the 5 minutes it takes to address them. So do the ankle rotations, do the toe raises, take them seriously. Because what you're really doing isn't stretching. You're maintaining the infrastructure that keeps you upright and independent. So with that in mind, let's talk about the last two. And these ones are a little different from everything we've covered so far because they're less about the joints and more about two systems that almost nobody thinks about in the context of a morning routine: your nervous system and your spine. Movement 6 is deep diaphragmatic breathing with arm raises. Standing tall, you inhale slowly and deeply through your nose while you raise both arms out to the sides and up overhead, like you're opening your chest to the ceiling. Then you exhale slowly through your mouth as you lower the arms back down. 5 to 8 slow, full breaths. That's all. Now this might sound more like meditation than movement, but don't underestimate what's happening here. Let me explain what's going on in the first few minutes after you wake up. When you come out of sleep, your body is still partially in a state governed by the sympathetic nervous system. That's your stress response system, the fight or flight branch. Your cortisol levels are actually at their highest point of the entire day in the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking. That's a normal, healthy pattern. It's called the cortisol awakening response, and it's designed to mobilize energy and prime you for the day. But here's the catch. If you wake up and immediately reach for your phone, check emails, read news, you're adding psychological stress on top of an already elevated cortisol baseline. You're essentially pouring gasoline on a fire that was already lit. Deep diaphragmatic breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest branch, which acts as a counterbalance. And there's good research on this. A study published in Frontiers in Psychology had participants train in diaphragmatic breathing over 8 weeks. At the end of the study, the breathing group had measurably lower cortisol levels and significantly better sustained attention compared to the control group. The researchers described it as a mind-body practice with clear, measurable effects on mental function. The arm raise component layers on top of that. It opens the chest, counteracts overnight compression of the rib cage, and re-engages the deep postural muscles of the spine. It's a full reset button wrapped up in a breathing exercise. And that connects directly to movement 7, the spinal wave, or what you might call a standing forward fold with a slow roll-up. You stand with your feet hip-width apart, let your chin drop toward your chest, and slowly roll down through your spine, vertebra by vertebra, until your arms hang loosely toward the floor. You don't need to touch the floor. You just go as far as is comfortable. Then you breathe there for a breath or two. Let gravity do its work, and slowly roll back up the same way, one vertebra at a time, head coming up last. This is the one movement in this sequence that directly addresses the spine as a whole. And here's what's actually happening. Your intervertebral discs, the cushions between each vertebra, have been compressed by gravity all day and then held in a relatively fixed position all night. In the morning, they're slightly dehydrated and under pressure. The forward fold, done slowly and with a rolling motion, creates a gentle traction effect through the entire spine. It decompresses. It stretches the erector spinae, those long muscles running the length of your back that are chronically tight in most people over 50. And the slow roll-up re-engages your deep core stabilizers in the exact sequence they're meant to fire, which is something that sitting, which is how most of us spend the majority of our days, completely bypasses. Japanese elders have done variations of this movement for generations, not because they read a biomechanics paper, because their bodies told them it worked. So there you have it, all 7. Neck rotations, shoulder rolls, trunk rotation, hip circles, ankle rotations, and toe raises, diaphragmatic breathing with arm raises, and the spinal wave. The whole sequence, done properly, not rushed, takes somewhere between 12 and 18 minutes. That's it. Less time than most people spend scrolling their phones before they even get out of bed. And I want to leave you with something to actually sit with. Not just the movements themselves, but the idea behind them. These aren't exercises in the way we typically think of exercise, something you do to burn calories or build muscle. These are maintenance. They're the equivalent of running the engine for a few minutes before you drive in the cold. They're the difference between a body that starts the day already fighting itself and a body that starts the day ready. The body doesn't maintain itself. You have to tend to it, consistently, gently, and a little bit every single day. That's the whole lesson. That's what those parks in Japan are really about. You don't have to do all 7 tomorrow morning. Pick 3. Start there. Notice how you feel by mid-morning, and then maybe add one more the following week. In the next video, I'm going to go deeper into what Japanese centenarians actually eat for breakfast, and some of it is going to genuinely surprise you. Subscribe so you don't miss that one. Take care of yourself. I'll see you there.